Welcome. The Woman in the Window was released in 2021 and was directed by Joe Wright. It stars Amy Adams and is about an agoraphobe named Dr. Anna Fox, and how she spies on her neighbors from time to time to keep up with the boredom of living in her house all the time. But one night, she witnesses a gruesome crime. So this was just released on Netflix about, I think, 2 weeks ago, and is based on the book, The Woman in the Window. And apparently that book is fantastic. A lot of people love it, and because of that, a movie got made of it. I hope the book was a lot better because I'm not a fan of the movie. I didn't think it was that good. And I think a lot of it could be because of direction and stuff like that, which we will talk about. And it's weird because with Joe Wright, he is a fantastic, fantastic director, but something about The Woman in the Window just doesn't hit the mark for me. But I do want to speak on some positives I do have with this movie, which the first one, of course, that I'm going to have is the acting. Amy Adams is fantastic. She does a great job. I mean, she does a great job in Arrival. She's just a really great actress, and it's no different in this movie. She pulls off what is probably a very difficult part to portray, and she does a fantastic job with it. So definitely nothing wrong with her character. I think she's great. Wyatt Russell, he's in the movie, and if you don't know who Wyatt Russell is, he is John Walker from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He does a great job with it. I really liked his character. The acting is not at issue in this movie. In terms of another pro that I have with it, which I don't think a lot of people are going to share this similar pro with me, is something that happens in the third act that becomes very horror-esque in terms of its practical effects with blood and gore, and on the inside, I was like shrieking like a little girl because it was so unexpected. I was so in my own world watching this movie because I wasn't enjoying it, and the third act probably is the worst part about this movie. But that one little moment at the end where blood and gore effects need to be used, I loved it. It was so great. I was so happy. It was like, oh, finally a horror movie moment that I wanted. It was great. And if you need a little help of where it's going to be, where I really like it, it's up on the roof. That's all I'm going to say. And in terms of my last pro that I have with this movie, I think that it's a decent plot. I mean, we've seen stuff like this before, and of course the obvious comparison is Rear Window, and it really does take a lot from Rear Window. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a moment in the movie, I think it's in the beginning, where Rear Window, I could not say it for a second, where Rear Window is playing on the TV, obviously giving us the little, yeah, this is kind of what we're portraying, so we'll make a little joke about it. But it's very Rear Window-esque, and I get why, because it's a great movie. This movie does some things decently well, but overall I'm very disappointed with it. So now to speak on my cons that I have. The first one, of course, is going to be the pacing of this movie. The first two acts are very slow, very building up. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of stuff that we need to figure out. It's a mystery. We don't know if what Amy Adams is seeing is very true. She's hearing voices. Are they in her head? Are these things actually happening? Is that Gary Oldman in the movie? We don't know what is happening. And then the third act is just off to the races. I mean, it just rushes everything until it just has like, woo, ending, done. So that third act is awful because of that. I mean, you completely ruined the build-up that you had in the first two acts that were decent. They weren't bad. It wasn't bad build-up. Now, I think that some of the shots and some of the other things that we had in the first two acts aren't done the best that they could have been, but it was way better than what we got in the third act because, my, did it feel rushed, and just characters were kind of being like, aha, well, you didn't expect this to happen. It just wasn't good, the third act. And in terms of some other cons I have, like I said, some of the directing in the first two acts with shots that we were getting, I could tell that there was a sense of isolation that wanted to be set up. There wanted to be a darkness surrounding our main character, Dr. Anna Fox, and for everything to feel claustrophobic. But there becomes a point of it feeling claustrophobic to where us as an audience just can't tell what's going on because we can't see anything that's happening. And it doesn't make us scared because we can't see what's happening. I think the movie should have been the tiniest little bit brighter because I could tell they wanted to have this darkness, but it took away from us being able to tell what was happening, and it didn't add any suspension, and it took me out of the movie right as it happened. Now, I already spoke on the final act, and I've already spoken on some of the directing stuff, but I think the biggest issue that I had with it is that it's very guessable. And in a movie that's shrouded by mystery and you really don't know what's going to happen, I found it to be very guessable, everything. And the fact that they had to rush it at the end, and it was guessable, it just led to this big conglomerate of nothingness for me, since you could tell what's going to happen from a mile away. They rushed the whole ending, so you can't even have a moment, if you didn't guess it, to be like, oh my god, that's crazy. You don't get time to do that because there's rushing. So, just overall disappointing movie for me, and I was really looking forward to it. I love Amy Adams. I think she's a great actress. Anthony Mackie's in the movie. I didn't even talk about him. He's great in this movie. I was excited for him. Gary Oldman, I made the joke with him before, but he's really not that in the movie, but he is in it, and I really liked him when he was there. There are so many great performances by people in this movie. It's just a shame that the third act really just ruins everything. So, overall, I'd give this movie a 4.5 out of 10. And if you want like a little mystery thriller that you just want to watch on Netflix, then of course I recommend it. It's not that bad of a movie that we've seen in recent years that kind of deal with similar topics of isolation and stuff like that. But it's definitely not one of the better ones. So thank you everyone for watching this review, and be on the lookout for more reviews on the channel. If you disagree with me, of course let me know. I always like to hear everyone's opinions. Just don't be rude to anyone in the comments, because that's not right. But, of course, I welcome any opinion. I think it's great that people have different opinions, and I love to hear them because it helps me as a critic to hear what other people think, to hear other people's thoughts, because I think it makes me a little bit more knowledgeable of what people will like and stuff like that. And of course, thank you again to everyone watching, and be on the lookout for the next review, which is going to be Saw 5. And man, is that a bad movie. So I am very excited to talk about it. But let's flash forward to the next review.